You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
This is the Hammock Hangers Podcast, where we hang out and talk about everything from hammocks and hammock camping to the group hangs from around the country. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hammock Hangers Podcast. I am your host, Paul Collins, or Skunkape. This week, Pheonix is back on with me, and him and I talk about our top 5 pieces of gear that have been game changers for us. You'll hear us talk about what those pieces are and why we feel that they have been game changers. This episode is a little bit longer than others, so let's go ahead and dive right on in and get started. All right, everybody, let's welcome back Pheonix. I brought him back with me. He wanted to come back on and do another episode of his ramblings. So what do you got for us this week, AJ?
All right, well, it seems like a lot of my ramblings are gear related. It probably has something to do with the fact that I have so much gear, but I promise everybody we're going to find some other stuff to do other than gear ramblings. However, this week is not it. So, me and Paul have been talking about, over campfires and other conversations, gear that has really revolutionized the way that we camp, and not necessarily specifically hammock camping, but just camping in general. So today we're going to talk about the 5 pieces of gear that have really been game changers in our camping journey, camping routine, camping sort of gear loadout that we now consider this gear versus other pieces of gear. Okay,
sounds good.
So Paul, you got your 5?
I got my 5.
All right, awesome. I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to have 2 honorable mentions because I can't not include these 2 things on my list because they are so important to my hammock story. The first is, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate to this, my very first Eno double nest. It was the very first hammock that I bought before I knew any better, but it was the gateway drug that got me into hammock camping. It drastically changed how I experienced the outdoors. It was the Narnia wardrobe that led me into this beautiful world of hammock camping.
Okay.
So the Eno double nest, the first one that I bought was part of a 1-link system. It is the ugliest shade of brown that it's hideous. It's not pretty at all. However, that was my very first hang, and I thoroughly remember setting it up in a kind of like a public park / wayside, a few miles from my house. I had that thing strung up as tight as a guitar string, and Lord knows
that's how I see everybody set those up. Is that normal for the Enos?
No, I just think people just don't know any better. Okay,
because every person that I've ever seen set up an Eno, it's like they're getting ready to slackline walk it.
Yes, I now granted I know better. I do better now, but I still get the same feeling because whenever you go to like a campground, like I was in South Carolina, camping over Thanksgiving, and we saw a few those 9-foot kind of lounger hammocks, and
right.
Every single one of them was strung like a banana. Like the only way that you could have hung it was straight. Now, I mean, I know some people like that, and hey, hang your own hang, but every time we go out and I see a slew of those, I just want to go, hey, can I do like Operation Ridgeline and just like make like ridge lines to take around to like put in these hammocks? So be like, hey, you might think this is nice, but if you put this little piece of string between your endpoints and you give yourself a certain amount of sag, game changer.
Come on over to
changing.
come on over to the light side.
I know, right? But alas.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I've never owned an Eno myself, and
Really?
yeah, never.
Huh.
My first hammock that I ever owned was the Clark North American.
Oh, okay.
So
the one that you did your AT hike in.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yep. So.
All right. So again, my second piece of hammock gear or gear that completely changed. It's not exactly a piece of camping gear. It's actually my sewing machine. I never thought, like, I took home ec in high school. I'm kind of dating myself with that reference, but I was horrible. Like, I was like terrible, and I started watching a few YouTubes and things like that. I actually hijacked my wife's sewing machine. It's got like flower designs and stuff like that on it. I don't care. It sews a straight line.
Blame your wife. Just try and pass it off on her.
Yeah.
I know better.
It brings out the color in my eyes. But I just got kind of in a groove, and that really opened the doors for me to say, "Hey, I'm gonna try making a hammock." And I actually slept in my first double layer that I made. It was orange and blue. It was, I want to say Hexon 1.6, regular width. And I want to say I slept in it for like 2 years straight. It had a Franke size bug net. It is stupid comfortable. The stitching is not the prettiest in the world. I've definitely gotten a lot better. But just that sewing machine allowed me to not only get me into some gear that I could feel personally proud to use, but it has opened the gates for a few other people that I've made hammocks for that are now using them in the wild per se.
I know I used the one that you gave me outside a lot.
Yeah, our friend Britt, he has an XLC, and that he actually bought for me. But whenever we go camping, he uses his green monster is what we call it, because it is bright green, kind of like an olive yellow, 1.7 mountain fabric, which is my favorite fabric of all time. Up until that he bought his hammock from Jason in Walhalla, Travis used his. I actually made the hammock that got him into hammock camping. His wife contacted me like one Christmas and was like, "Hey, my husband is maybe looking at a hammock for Christmas, and I see that you're making them. So would you make?" And I made one, and so I've had a decent little side hustle with making hammocks for people, and
the Pheonix Originals.
Yeah, the Pheonix Originals. And hey, everybody's liked them. I haven't had a failure yet, so
I know
next week.
I know mine is very comfortable. Mine is very, very comfortable. I love it.
I mean, I do a little stuff like here and there different, but I mean, it's just a simple gathered hammock, and I really like it. In fact, I'm laying in one right now on my back porch.
Is that one of the ones that you made?
It is. It is, and this is a short one actually.
Okay.
Because I have one of the Walmart stands,
or
whatever, that weigh like 500 pounds, and they only hold like a 9-foot hammock. But like I don't like the feel of like the Eno fabric now that I've actually felt like some of the more cottage vendor fabrics. So I have this Mountain 1.7. It's like 8.5 feet long, just like an Eno. But a testament to this fabric, we moved into this house probably about 3 years ago, and it has been outside on my back porch. I've never brought it in for 3 years, and I'm still hanging in it, and it looks, I mean, it hasn't worn out. I mean, it's faded a little bit here and there, but it is not shown anywhere. Now, granted, it's in the shade and stuff like that, but seriously, out in the elements, it's gone through numerous hurricanes, and I'm still hanging in it. So props to Ripstop by the roll for their 1.7 mountain fabric, because it is handling like a champ. But those are my honorable mentions.
Okay.
So let's get into our main core,
The main five.
Main five. All right. So my first one is a full length underquilt. So before I had like my down quilts and things like that, my first underquilt was a 3/4 length jar bridge. And if you remember from our gear that I regret buying, I will not buy another 3/4 length underquilt. However, I do really like the synthetic stuff that was out even before the CRO's up insulation, or it's actually put out by Dutch, but I know CRO uses it a lot. But my very first full length underquilt was a Kick-Ass Quilts Arrowhead Equipment full length New River that I actually got Paul to sew. I want to say it's 52 inches wide, because I wanted something that I could just hook on, and I didn't have to worry about fiddle factor or anything like that. I can literally hook up. I don't have to worry about quilt hooks or anything about it sliding here and there. I know that sucker ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Now, is it light and compact? Absolutely not. However, it is awesome. I have taken it down to like the low 20s and not felt a single draft on me quite a bit. So yeah. So that would be my first. It was a real game changer to just be able to set it and forget it. And I got that luxury with a full length underquilt.
Okay. Well, my first one is similar to yours. Like I told you a minute ago, my first hammock was the Clark. When I had the North American, I had actually made little pillows to go into the 6 pockets. But then after I got off the trail and all that, I ended up getting the next Clark, which was the 250 at the time. Same as the 270. The only difference is the pockets were accessible from the outside versus the inside, like the 270. And you've dealt with the 3/4 underquilts. I've never gotten into 3/4. I've always went with the full length. I've never seen the sense in a 3/4. It's like, if I'm gonna be cold, if it's gonna be cold enough for me to use an underquilt, I want it to be under my whole body, not just part of it.
Yeah, so, I've never understood like a 0 degree 3/4 length.
Yeah, so I mean, I've never understood the 3/4, so I've just always gone with the full length. But with the Clark 250 and also the 270, I always had issues with other normal quilts, underquilts, staying on. I'd put it on, and then I guess whenever I would turn at night or whatever, somehow the quilt would always end up flipping out from up under it and hanging on one of the sides of the hammock. And then I'd have to, I'd start getting cold, and then I'd have to unzip and try and fix and everything else. So I had talked to George with Loco Libre, and I ended up sending him my hammock, and he designed the jungle pepper from it. And so that was my first game changer, because the way that he designed it, he has the little mitten clips that hook onto the little hoops on each end and each side of the Clark. So, once it's on, it's not going to slip out. It's not going to slip forward. It's not going to slip back. It's on, it's in place, and that's it. You just cinch down the ends if you want it, to take out the air gaps. And, if you get a little warm, you just, loosen the ends to let a little airflow go through. But other than that, it's not going anywhere. So that's my first, as well as the underquilt, just in a different way.
Yeah, having an underquilt system that you can really trust and know that you're not going to mess it up in some way it really is just a comfort that you can't really pass up.
Right.
Okay, so my number two, oh my goodness, and I have many, many dry nights to think about this, but my game changer for me is a winter tarp with doors. And I'm going to give a special shout out to my very first one, and it's a tarp that I still use quite a bit. My very first, in theory, buy once, cry once tarp was a War Bonnet Superfly, an 11-foot War Bonnet Superfly with uh, the spreader bar pullouts. I'll tell you, Paul, I have been through some crazy, crazy storms in that tarp. And kind of storms that, like, I'm saying a little prayer underneath because I'm just like, this is where I die. And I have always, always been super dry. I have not gotten wet a single time in that tarp. And I'm talking crazy wind blowing. I want to say there was hail at some point in time. But I have never gotten wet from that tarp. In fact, we were camping in Hungry Mother State Park in Marion, Virginia. We were coming through there on one of our trips up to Virginia, and we're in this crazy lightning storm, and there's lightning crashing and thunder booming, and it's going down the mountain range. And we haven't gotten our camper at this point. My family are still camping in the tent, which I've tried to persuade my wife to like go to a hammock, but it's not happening. But in the middle of the storm, all of us hear, "Hey Jay, the tent is leaking." And here I am under my nice, dry, cozy tarp in the middle of this downpour. Like, it is crazy. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, if you would have just gotten in a tarp like me, you'd still be dry too. Like, what am I going to do? I am dry. What? But, happy wife, happy life. I don't know if I fixed anything. I got wet and I got soaked for, I don't know, a moral victory. I don't know. But yeah, I've ridden out some crazy storms, and I can always count on my winter tarps. Even though, again, I know we live in Florida, so winter happens like on a Tuesday. So we don't necessarily use them for as far as the snow and the heat retention necessarily, but those winter tarps are game changers when it comes to dealing with the heavy storms that we get, not only here in Florida, but, other parts of the South. And no matter where you're camping, eventually you're going to run into a butt busting storm.
Yep. I think, let's see, I've got the Winter Palace. So that's got the doors. I've got the R&R. That's got doors. I have the standard Dyneema from Hammock Gear with doors. I don't know that I have any that don't have doors. I got we got our Hang-On tarp, but I think even with that one, you can close in the ends. Like
it's a rectangle. You can finagle doors out of that. I do have some tarps that have like the mini doors. Like I have I have a 13-foot Thunderfly from War Bonnet that has like mini doors, and I actually also have one of War Bonnet's. They don't sell it anymore. The War Bonnet Edge, which is just a standard hex tarp. I got a few from Dutch that are hex tarps that don't have doors. I mean, those are nice too for like in the summer weather, so you can let air come through. But man, I do like the doors, even if I love my doors.
I think my next tarp that I'm going to get, I've already talked to Jason about it, and with this one here, you really don't need doors. It's that the one that he has, the 15 by 15.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I think
that's a monster of a tarp.
It's nice though. because he has those bars that go up under the spreader bars. He had his set up at Fall Sprawl. Yeah, it was up at Fall Sprawl when we were up there, and it was like really, really dry.
Mm-hmm. You're not talking about somebody that makes a really good tarp. I love Jason's work on his tarps. Yes. I don't own one yet.
I've seen. I mean, I've everybody that has one, plus seeing the ones that he sets up, with the hangings and everything. That's why that's going to be one of the next tarps that I get.
Yeah,
I've already got one of those hammocks.
I probably own more War Bonnet tarps than I do anything. Yeah, as far as like tarps go.
Right, mine are the hammock gear.
Most all of War Bonnet's tarps.
Now the only seal nylon tarp that I have is the Hangcon tarp. All the others are the Dyneema.
You fancy, Paul. You fancy.
Fancy.
All right. So what's your second tier?
So my second, I would actually have to say, and as simple as this is, I love them because they make things so simple with setting up, and that is my birch buckles from Autumn Outdoor Gear.
Oh yeah.
I remember you showing me yours because I had bought the what were they, the cinch, was it the cinch buckles? No, not cinch buckles. What's their other ones? You got the birch buckles.
June buckles?
No.
I'm thinking of that. That's something that Dutch sells.
Breeze. Sorry, the breeze buckles.
Yes.
The breeze buckles. I had those, and I thought they were pretty good. And then you showed me the birch buckles, and I was like, oh my God. Total game changer. Quick,
hands
easy.
down, the smoothest cinch buckle-esque suspension on the market.
Yes. And that's probably why she stays sold out of them as much as she does, because as soon as she gets them in, they're gone.
They are a really, really great suspension. If you were looking for a super smooth, super minimalist, very light buckle system, definitely check out the birch buckles from Autumn Ultralight Gear. Great piece of gear.
I mean, because all you need is the continuous loops on your hammock and your 1-inch webbing and the birch buckles.
Yeah.
And you get that micro adjustment that, same as you would if you had the had whoopies on there.
Mm-hmm. And they slide super easy.
Yes.
Super easy. Tightening or loosening.
Yep.
All right.
So what's your number 3?
All right. My number 3, and this is no surprise to you, I'm sure, because I own, now thanks to you, I only
surprises
own
me
6
with
of
you
them.
At all.
My Dutchware Chameleon. Like, it's not perfect. There are things that I would tweak, aka the zipper.
Yes.
I like the functionality of the zipper, but the thing's a pain in the ass. I'm not a huge fan of the functionality or the actual zipping of the zipper.
Right.
But man,
I had some issues, some altercations with the zipper.
Yeah.
One of my things too.
I just love my chameleons. I absolutely love if I'm just like going out.
I noticed you just pluraled that and said chameleons.
I have a few.
How many? How many?
I want to say I only have 6 now.
I only have 6. And you called me fancy.
Well, probably. But I absolutely love the modularity of the chameleon. I love the storage options.
Yep.
I love the the color choices. Dutch has a huge selection of not only solid colors but also print to fabric. You can get it ordered and he gets it shipped out really, really quick. You're not waiting a long time for the hammock to come in. His elves over there in Dutchland are, cranking these things out like crazy. overall, it's not my most comfortable hammock. It's even not even my most comfortable gathered in, but all in all, it is a great system that you can kind of piece together
Right.
to best accommodate any trip that you're going on. And the changing of the pieces make that transition super quick. And if you're looking for something that is light, you can choose to, completely remove the bug net, put on a top cover. You don't have to take your bug net or vice versa. Like me, I do a lot of like car camping, so mine are like decked out. Like I think I need a bigger stuff sack for all the accessories that I have added on. I've got side slings on both sides. I've got internal storage. I've got this. I've got that. But the modularity of the Chameleon was a huge game changer for me because it allowed me to easily customize one hammock multiple different ways. And hey, Dutch released the first Chameleon at HangCon, so
I remember that.
There's always a special spot in my heart for that.
I love the side saddle. The side saddle is the longer one, right?
That's the side slings.
That's the sling. Okay, I always get those two big mixed up. So the sling is one that I like because that's where I stuff my my top quilt.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I go to get into the hammock, I'm not having to fight to hold the quilt in, like I do on gathered ends without without that sling on it.
One thing that I really like about the side sling, especially on the side that my foot is on, so I can go both either way, but I mainly sleep head left, feet right. So I really like that side sling on the right side because it's almost like a little pocket that I can stick my toes in. It's not like cramped in against the bug net. Like it offers just that little bit of, I don't want to say a foot box because, that's something a little bit different, but it's literally like a foot box that I can stick my toes in or stick my heel in. That it's not so crammed against the bug net with the zipper. So, and that's the case for the Banyan as well. So, props to Dutch for the side sling. It's a very cool little mod for your hammocks. What is your third game changer piece of gear?
My third, I would have to say, is my Yobo stands. Because I've never owned any other stands, and so I was always, if I didn't have trees, I didn't hang. Getting the Yobo stands, like when was it? Week before last or whatever, when Britt, Travis, and I went out camping, they wanted to go to the beach and do some fishing. Well, I didn't feel like renewing my fishing license or anything. So I was like, I'll go and I'll take my stand with me and y'all can fish and I'll just kick back. And so I went and set my stand up on the beach and hung the hammock and kicked back and everything. And, I've used it, indoors and everything else. So I really love my Yobo stands. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, when I had surgery earlier this year, I used my Yobo stand in my living room for like 2 or 3 weeks that I had to sleep on my back, and it was really, really nice. I don't think I know, for me at least, I know some people can set up other stands inside, but for me that was the only stand I would have been able to do that with.
Right. I've seen pictures of people setting up a Tensa inside somehow, and they only tether off one end. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's great and all, but I know what would happen if I tried that. It would not turn out well. I know sometime in the middle of the night after I fall asleep, I'm going to move and it's going to go south from there.
Being tacoed in a Tesla stand, I may have schema for that.
So you sound like you've got experience, huh?
I do have experience, which this is a great transition because my next piece of gear that's a game changer is my Tensa 4.
Really?
My
Okay.
Tensa 4, so again, this is I probably use my Yobo stand more than I do any other stand that I have. But there is a special spot in my heart for my Tensa 4. Mainly being it was the first stand that I bought that I actually enjoyed. I want to say when we did our gear that I will never buy again or I regret purchasing, I forgot this piece of gear that I think I need to add to that list. I bought a Tato stand, and
Okay.
when I say I hated it, all right, Paul, this should tell you I sold it.
You sold something,
it.
AJ?
Like it is no longer in my possession. I hated it so much it got sold. So now I love the turtle dog stand. Like I've made some and given to people. Right. I've made some that I've used, but the Tato and we got in fights. It didn't work out. It was not a loving relationship. However, the Tensa stand I want to say it was their first line that they first rollout of their stand. It had just been on the market.
Okay.
And it came out, and it was my first big out west trip that we've done every year. So, for those of you who don't know, both me and my wife, we are teachers, and so usually over the summer, we take these big month-long road trips with our kids. And we were going out to Colorado and Utah, and I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep in a tent. I'm not going to do it because we had not bought our camper yet, and they were still sleeping in this ginormous Coleman, like 32-man tent. I don't know.
Is this the same trip that you were talking about a minute ago where it started leaking?
No, this was a different one.
Okay.
Same tent.
Okay.
Same tent.
Same tent, different year. Okay.
Yeah. Huge tent. And so when I originally bought the stand, I was under the impression, in the course of this 30-day trip, I'll use it maybe, 5 nights out of the 30 trips. I mean, we're staying at campgrounds. They've got to have trees, most of the places. I'm so glad that I bought the stand because I used that stand probably 28 out of the 30 nights because we didn't have trees.
Really? Okay.
We didn't have trees, or there wasn't trees that were going to work out, or it was just I used it a significant amount of time, and it allowed me to, for one, have my own space away from my family because after 30 days of very close,
people are going to start thinking that you don't like your family.
I do love my family, but 30 days of very close quartered camping. I want to continue to love my family, so it's nice how does that your family feel about you? Places. Oh, I'm sure. That Tensa stand may be one of the reasons that I'm not dead in the ground somewhere in Utah. But yeah, so it offered me that luxury of being able to say, I'm going to go camping, and no matter what the situation, I can hang. I can tether off to my truck. I can tether off to the ground. Now, I will say, when I first started, I was only doing the one tether down, and I did cross the line of no return a couple times, and it did not work out well. Being tacoed in a Tensa stand while you're in a Frankie style bug net with a Charlie horse because you got a cramp is miserable. I do not suggest. God. I do not recommend.
Please tell me there's video. Please tell me there's video out there somewhere of this.
Alas, there's not a video.
Oh my God. That would have been so hilarious.
But it was really nice that I can set up a stand and hang no matter wherever I want to be.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about the cricket stand too. Like you can just pick up and move it.
That's what I like. That's what I like about it. You know, you set it up, and I mean, I don't know how many times on the beach I moved mine.
Yeah.
Because I would either, you know, the sun would start coming up, and then, you know, the sun would start getting my face, so I'd get up and I would, you know, move it, you know, turn it so that the sun was out of my eyes. A couple of times as the tide started coming in, you know, the water's trying to wash out from up under the feet, so I'd have to get up and move it. And I mean, it was just that quick and simple to, you know, okay, we get out of the hammock, pick it up, move it, set it back down, lay back in the hammock. And I loved it. I loved being able to do that.
Yeah, I would definitely have to say that a good quality stand is a game changer. And also, for those of you that are coming to HangCon and want a really good spot, like close to the action, but you can't come till, you know, Friday, you might want to consider a stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's going to be plenty of spots, but they're going to be out further.
But they're going to be out
back
further.
Back in primitive.
Exactly.
Back in primitive.
Okay, Paul, what's next on your list?
Okay, my next one, and this is fairly recent, is it's funny, because I have like the chameleons, I have, you know, the Wahalas, I have, you know, R&R, I have all the hammocks from our cottage vendors over here. Well, One Wind Outdoors actually sent me some stuff, and I mean, all their hammocks so far that I've laid in are very well made, very comfortable. But the one that I think I like the most is the 12-foot extra wide. I lay in it, and I mean, I can get perfectly flat. Got plenty of room. You know, there's no, you know, no squeeze, whatever. I mean, you got plenty of room to stretch out and everything else. I love it.
Now, I have to say, I've never laid in a One Wind hammock, but we have some of the One Wind top quilts that we have in our camper, and you know, my wife uses them and the kids use them. And they've been really, really nice, even down into like the low 30s. When we were out in Colorado this past summer, we used them, and they were really, really nice, packed down, you know, relatively small for a synthetic top quilt. But yeah, we've been really, really happy with the products that we have used from One Wind.
They got the top quilts have that, I call it a little birth canal. The little area, where you can actually undo it and put it over like a poncho.
Yeah, we have not tried that, but
I did. I mean, not in the cold. I'd done it just to see, and it works great.
Oh,
I mean, they've sent me a lot of stuff because, you know, of course this year they're one of our donating partners,
which we thank you, One Wind.
Yes. They wanted to try and, you know, they wanted to have their product there to be able to, you know, display and show. But, you know, they didn't have anybody to be there. And, so they have sent me a lot of stuff to, you know, try out and everything. And then I'm going to have it all set up there at HangCon, you know, to display for them and everything. And, you know, they'll have, you know, they're making a banner and sending a banner for me and all that with QR codes and all that. So, you know, if anybody sees, you know, something they like, they can go online and order, and we got a little discount code and all that stuff as well. So
awesome.
But you know, all the stuff that they have sent me so far, you know, from the hammocks to the quilts, you know, top quilt, under quilt. There's a a camp blanket. It's just a square blanket that will actually snap to the underquilt. So if, the temperature is really cold, you can basically double them up to get that extra warmth. But they've, sent me that big screen room, hammock screen room,
which is stupid cool.
It's phenomenal. I'm gonna love it down here in Florida.
Yeah, I remember when you set it up at Fall Sprawl, and it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool.
They actually have some new gear that they just came out with. Also, they have their down top quilts that they have now, and they also have a couple of other tarp rooms.
Mm-hmm.
They come all the way down. They're like 6.5 foot center peak, but they come all the way down on the sides to the ground. One of them is actually a hot tent.
Oh, okay.
And the other one is identical. It just don't have the opening for the stack for the stove.
Oh, okay. That is one piece of gear that I've never tried. Now, granted, I know we live in Florida, so a hot tent is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last one, to kind of also piggyback off your last one as well. It's a fairly new thing that has really changed my hammock hanging, and that is the War Bonnet Ridge Runner. I've always been a gathered in hanger.
Right.
For various reasons. But here recently, I have really gotten into bridge hammocks. I own 4 of them. I own a few Ridge Runners. I just got a Banyan. I have an old Jacks Are Better Barrel Mountain bridge. And I also have one of Bill Townsend's big guy bridges. Which is crazy awesome. But the War Bonnet Ridge Runner is my new hammock of choice. I can take it out. I lay completely flat in it. I think I have some wider shoulders. I don't get any of the shoulder squeeze that some people talk about. And again, that just may be luck on my part. I really like the fact that I have a 40-degree Lynx underquilt, which is the underquilt that War Bonnet makes specifically for the Ridge Runner. And
Okay.
I also have a Ridge Reaper that George Carr from Loco Libre, he makes.
Yep.
And one thing that I absolutely love about them is you just clip them in, and that's all. There is no fiddle factor with the underquilt at all. Like, at all. I don't get any breezes. I don't have to cinch things up. I just clip the 4 points and set it and forget it. It is done. I'm staying warm. I'm not getting any cold butt syndrome, and it is crazy nice. I can also sleep on my side. There's a little bit of weight penalty, with the spreader bars, but again, I'm not hiking these long miles that some folks are, so weight isn't a huge issue for me.
Right.
And as long as I don't lose the spreader bars, which knowing me, that's probably my biggest downfall. It's crazy cool, and it's.
Are you not able to sleep on your side in a gathered in?
I mean, I can, but. I just always end up on my back.
Oh, okay.
We're in a.
I was just curious because I know when people talk about bridge hammocks, that's one of the things they always say is, "Oh, I can sleep on my side and everything," but it's like I sleep on my side in my hammocks.
Yeah, I do. It's just it's a little bit more natural side sleeping in a bridge versus a gathered in. It just feels a lot more bed like or cot. I would say like. I don't feel
See,
the need to.
I'm super comfortable sleeping on my side, especially in the. I mean, I do it in all my hammocks,
Mhm.
but with the 12-foot here, I mean, there's no issues. I'm probably gonna bring that one this weekend,
Okay. Yeah.
and I'll let you look at it and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'll be bringing my Banyan this weekend. I think that's the hammock that I decided to pimp out this weekend.
The Banyan or the Ridge Runner?
The Banyan.
The Banyan.
The Banyan.
Okay. So that was your last one though, right?
Yes, that was my last one.
Okay. Was your Ridge Runner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my last one is my squish brick.
Oh, a pillow.
Yes. I have tried many others in the past. I've tried the blow up ones. I've tried the down ones, and they were not comfortable to me in a hammock. A lot of times, middle of the night they would slide around. I would lose them. Just a number of different things. The squish brick, I love it. Now, granted, the one that I have is the large. So I can't say anything, say how the smaller ones are. But I know the large ones are super comfortable.
Yeah, I own one of the large ones and one of the smaller ones. And the smaller ones is still legitimately a great pillow. With my big old head, I like the bigger ones. Because I can also exchange the from behind my head to under my knee. Because sometimes I like to just have a pillow under my knee. And I'll just throw my top quilt until I get too cold as that pillow and the squish brick, under my knee. And yeah, I completely agree with your thoughts on the squish brick. It is a great pillow.
Like I said, I tried the others, and then I would end up getting rid of them. Actually, I think I put some of them in the gear sale or the raffle or something at one of the things that we went to at some point. But I don't think the squish brick's going anywhere.
Yeah, I've got a couple pillows that I really like, but yeah, the squish brick, it just works, and you don't have to worry about it failing, or you don't have to worry about something happening or whatever that deflates in the middle of the night.
Right.
Solid piece of gear. Gear.
My wife was actually trying to steal it a couple of weeks ago from me. I showed it to her. Now she don't camp, but she wanted to steal it for the bed. You ain't touching my damn pillow. So I've got it hidden now. So, all right. So that got your 5, got my 5. And was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or leave all that for another episode?
Well, just remind folks that we have a few more weeks of our early bird raffle ticket sales for HangCon. If you want to get in on that special 6 tickets for $20 instead of the 5 tickets for $20, make sure you pick those up before midnight on December 31st is when that sale ends. Make sure you get your tickets in. We really appreciate those that pre-purchase raffle tickets. It helps get the funds that we need to kind of put things together for HangCon to coming up. And if I recall, we have over 300 people already registered for HangCon, and we have over a month before the event takes place. So yeah, we might be looking at over 400 people this year.
I'm thinking so, because I know that the last weeks are usually the busiest.
Yeah,
because everybody's waiting to see if they're going to be able to come and all that stuff. I do want to put this out there as well, and I mean this would be for the people that have been to HangCon in the past and ones that have not. So anytime that you've heard AJ and I talking about HangCon on the podcast or wherever, even in the social media sites, you always hear us say that it's at Sertoma Youth Ranch. Sertoma has actually been bought out by another nonprofit, which is the Will McLean Foundation. So the name has changed. I don't know if they're going to change the sign or not, but if you're coming to HangCon, I know we've always said, that's at Sertoma. And if they change the sign, of course, it's not going to say that. But the new name that they're changing it to is Florida Sand Music Ranch. So once you get to HangCon, you go to, following the GPS, go to turn in, it's either going to say Sertoma Youth Ranch or the Florida Sand Music Ranch.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how long it takes everything to kind of transition from Sertoma to Florida Sand.
Right. I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there because especially if we got some new people coming that, have been listening to the podcast or, following on social media and all that, always hear us say that it's at Sertoma Youth Ranch. I don't want them following the GPS and go to tournament someplace and they're like, this ain't Sertoma. So just want to throw that out there. But if you ain't got anything else, AJ, we'll go ahead and close out and until the next episode.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right. And we will talk to you later then.
All right. Take care.
As always, AJ, it's great having you on the show with me to talk about gear and other topics that you come up with that you just want to ramble about. Be thinking of other things that you want to discuss, and I'll have you back on again. If anyone has any specific questions that they would like Pheonix and I to answer on the show, just send me a message to skunkape@thehammockhangerspodcast.com, and I'll make sure to get them answered when Pheonix and I are back on together. Don't forget to check out all of the other podcast shows that are on the Hiking Radio Network as well. There is Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, the Trail Dames Podcast, and Hiking Unfiltered. And if you like what we're doing here on the Hiking Radio Network and you would like to see our shows continue, please consider supporting us with either a one-off or monthly donation. You will find the donate button on each of the Hiking Radio Network pages at hikingradionetwork.com. Also, don't forget to leave a review and share the show on your social media to help the show grow. Until next week, happy hanging, everyone.